Hey guys, welcome on in. Kyrios here, and today we're going to talk about brand new equipment, especially the equipment dropping in 2.0. Now, there is 4 new pieces of equipment from 2.0 to 2.2, but I'm really going to focus on the first 2. I'll touch briefly on the other 2 as we progress through the video, and I will have a big tip at the end, which might require you to do Tower of Savings. You don't have to do it, totally optional. If you guys can't hit that like and subscribe, check out the Tower of Fantasy playlist, and let's get started. All right, guys, welcome on in. Once again, I will have a big tip at the end. There's a lot we have to cover here, from the different gear you're going to get to the new stats that you can get on this gear as well, to the ways that you can get it. So I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. Hit the chapters down below. Hopefully, I cover this in a very logical way. But you can see here we're in Mioria City. We are in 2.0 or 2.2 technically. And you can see that we have brand new gear on our character, and the 2 pieces of gear I want to talk about that will be live at 2.0, which are the goggles and the engine. Now that might be a rough translation. It might be, the wording might be different when we get to global, but that's what I really know. Now there is another piece that I actually don't even know what the name of this piece is, but I'll show you guys that in a little bit. And then there is the reactor, and the reactor it was introduced in 2.1. So I really want to talk about the goggles and the engine. And you can see here that they have different elements on this, and I actually have different elemental gear. Like this one's a physical piece. Now, before we talk about the enhancements to this new gear, let's talk about how you get this new gear. So the way that you can get this new piece of gear are these yellow shards and these purple shards. Now, you don't get these very quickly. There's several different ways you can get them, but you're going to be capped on how many you can get a week. And in order to level, and you cannot get this from dungeons, you can get them from just locations that I will show you in just a bit. But you'll end up buying actually a lot of purple gear in this instance because crystals do not work to level it up. And the key point of this is that you're really going to want to focus an element. You can see here that this is ice, this is fire, this is electricity. Now you're wondering why that might be. It's because the first stat here is always going to be a flat stat of the element that you care about. Now there will be 4 random stats, so there is a little bit of RNG of trying to get the perfect piece of gear. But at some point you're going to have to like cash in your chips and just be like, all right, this piece is good enough. And we'll talk more about optimization in another video. But just start thinking about the element that you're looking to play primarily, and then start working on that. Like I run fire, so I have fire on both the engine and the goggles. Now, the other way you can get some of those shards is from support points. You can get about 2 of the gold ones a week. You can get about 5 of the purple ones a week. That's not very much, but is a little supplemental. And you can get them from this new token, which is called the returning bonus. I don't know if this is going to be live at 2.0, but it's essentially if you play with people that are just returning to the game, or you bring your friends back, you get an additional incentive if you go do dungeons and stuff with them, and you can buy an accelerated amount of materials. So let's talk about the other way to get it. So the other way to get it is from actual world bosses. Now, let's go out to Vera. There's actually 2 new world bosses that get introduced. There is the Elk of Doom, and then there's the Salamander of Doom. They are both a pain. But you can see here in the top right hand corner, we actually have 2 different ciphers. Now I'll talk about this in our daily and weekly volume of Vera video, but just know that when you're doing weeklies, you're actually going to get both the old world tokens and the new world tokens. So you'll be able to do 6 world bosses a week instead of 3 world bosses a week, give or take. So these new world bosses do drop the visors and those tokens as well. So the visors are a random drop. They're not guaranteed, but these tokens are guaranteed. You get 5 of the gold ones, and I believe 10 of the, I'm flashing on screen now, 10 of the purple ones. Now you do also get these other materials as well in order to level them up. You can see that those are unique. Those are not like the ones that we had for our other 8 pieces of gear. So please note that right there, that you're only going to get these so quickly. And you can get them off the Salamander as well. All right, the other way that you're going to get this gear is they should be changing up the raid. Now, the raid that I'm used to is this. Now, I know in global, we currently have, you're getting just gold dust, but they should be changing it that you get these gold materials. And I think you get anywhere between 8 to 12, depending on the raid difficulty. whether it's the first, second, or third. Future Kyrios. Hey guys, Future Kyrios here, and I just want to reiterate all the ways you can get tokens real quick. Now, we got some help from some of my CN friends and my CN guild in that account, and we were able to go take down the raids and take down a bunch of these things so I can confirm the amount of materials you guys get. So I just quickly want to bring that up on screen. All right, so I was in the middle of editing this video. I just wanted to bring this up on screen that we already talked about the world bosses, but when we talked about raid bosses, there's 4 different ones, but you get different amounts of gold shards. Now, if you get 3 world bosses a week, about 15 gold shards, 30 purple shards. And if you do all the raid bosses every single week, you get 8 from the first one, you get 8 from the second, you get 12 from the third. So that would be, 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝙿 would be the second one. Nemesis would be the third one, and the new elk boss would be the 4th one. You get 12 from there, and you get some from support points. So you get roughly about 55 gold shards a week and about 94 purple shards a week. So that means you have to be very, very careful about how you're spending these resources. So make sure you're at least getting 1 of each first, and then you systematically can get more and more to be able to level them. All right, cool. Let's just talk about briefly the perks of this equipment. Now, once again, I am running a fire comp. You can see I have Ruby, I have Annabella, so I really want to be running these fire goggles and fire reactor. Now, the reason I do that is because it gives me fire attack as a flat attack when leveling those up. You can see that fire attack is going up, and then these 3 stats stay the same as well in that middle section. Now, the one thing that is randomized are those 4 stats. Now, on this piece of gear, I did not roll the best stats. I got 3 flat stats. That's actually not what you're looking for per se anymore, because there's an introduction of 2 new stats, especially on the goggles. But this stat is on all of them. You can get percentage-based elemental damage up. So this one says fire damage increased by 1.75%. You can get that all the way up to, I think, about close to 10% if you roll very, very lucky. Now, on the goggles especially, you can actually roll crit rate on them. You can see I have crit rate here, and there's base crit rate on them as well. So if I was to equip my crit rate physical goggles on those, you'll see on my stat page that new crit stat that everyone's been wondering about is increased by 1.5%. Now, this is regardless of level, so this is a very strong piece of crit compared to this piece of crit that goes down as you level and level, and you get to get more and more. Going back over there. So as you can see, this is a very slow process, and we'll talk more about optimization of gear on another video, but just be aware that you need to be very focused on the gear that you're looking for. You're trying to get that right set of gear with the right element, and then you're trying to get it with, especially the goggles, with crit rate and that percentage based element as well. You can see this one has frost increase, but then has critical rate and fire increase. Now, if it rolls in the crit rate, it honestly doesn't matter what element it is. It would be ideal if it was the correct one, but crit rate is just always so important that don't worry about that. And then just briefly, I do want to talk about the other 2 pieces of gear in just a quick 1 minute. This is for 2.1 and 2.2 before we get to the hot tips. There is the new reactor, and then there's the new claw wrench thingy that I don't even have access to. Now, the reactor does come from a new world boss in 2.1. I don't want this video to be too much about 2.1, but just realize that there is a new world boss where you can get new equipment. I do want to point out that this is really the only way to get this piece of equipment outside of some scavenging hunts in a few other places, but there's no raid or anything like that that gives you this. So as my big tip, if you're trying to super optimize and you get a decent goggles and engine, you may want to save your gold ciphers until we get to the 2.1 or 2.1 and 2.2 world bosses. You can see there's another world boss down here that I don't even have access to yet. Now, there is a 4th piece of equipment. I don't want to talk too much about it, but they do eventually introduce group bygones, which does give you access to that new materials. It gives you additionally level materials there, but it also has that new wrench or whatever this is actually called. I haven't translated it. I apologize. But this new mode is very hard. 4 people bygones. It is just cranked to the roof, and you get those new leveling materials as well. Quickly, I do want to point that out is that you do also get these new leveling resources. So if you try to level up a piece of gear, you can't do it with your old crystals. You either have to do it with like visors, or you have to do it with these new pieces that you get from raids and a few other activities. Okay, that was a lot. I'm sorry, this video is very long, but there's one thing I do want to show you guys before we go. In 2.1, they do introduce the Scavenging Hunt, which I don't know what they're going to release at 2.0, but I don't think they're going to release 2.1. But in the new Scavenging Hunt system, it requires you to go around and kill elite enemies, not world boss enemies per se, but elite enemies, and go pick up plants and a bunch of other things. And you can actually earn these crystals in 2.1 in a very fun way. And there's many different tiers that you can level this up. You can see this one has 3 different tiers where I've gotten different equipment from dust to crystals to Vera tokens. And it's just a very fun thing to do, to go back to the different areas and farm elite materials and be able to get more equipment faster. This was a very nice introduction that I wish they would have had at the very beginning of game. You can see that they have those gold shards there. So something to look forward to, that in 2.1, it should ease the burden of getting some of the gear as well. You can see you can get some reactor gear from some of these as well. You can see that the claw was added there at some point. And there's just many different, you can also get SSR relics here and that new leveling booster as well. Okay. And as the final little bit, we need to talk about the shop. And I'm going to cover this shop in complete detail of once I see what the global shop looks like. But there's a lot of great packages in 2.1, 2.2, 2.0 that make it so it's if you're a dolphin or a whale or a light spender, some of these are very enticing. Like this one's $5. It gives you essentially access to all those pieces of equipment and a stat blocker. I know we haven't talked about stat blocker. I need a whole nother video to talk about that, and with dailies, weeklies, and the new changes to dungeons. So that'll be on the next volume. But some of these packages are just insane. This one is roughly about $10. Gets you 2 different visors, gets you 2 reactors, stat blockers, equipment upgrades, EXP upgrades, and there's some very cheap ones as well. This one is roughly $5. Gets you some materials as well. Some of these you can buy multiple times. Some of these you can buy every single week. So Tower Fantasy, I'm looking at you. For our light spenders, some of these packages that you've had have been a lot better. So I'm just using this as a PSA opportunity to say, hey, we really would like the battle pass. We would really like the battle pass that you offer in global. And I don't know why I can't find the battle pass right now. Apparently I'm going crazy. There we go. The battle pass that you offer in the CN, I mean. And we'd love to see this in global. We'd love to see the packages. We'd love to see the better battle pass. And we would love to see just all the incentives that has been offered between the different versions. So that was a very long video. I am super sorry. If you've been here the whole time, thank you so much. Hit that like and subscribe. I will see you on the next video. And fist bump from me to you.